5-3-1, where we bring our top 5 lists on a certain subject. We debate it down to a top 3 list. From that top 3 list, we kind of decide a top 1. This week, we're doing the top 5 Superkick. I'm going to start off my list. It's going to be a little run-of-the-mill because it starts off with Shawn Michaels, the Young Bucks next. I got Chris Adams at number 3, who I feel like is going to take the crown in the end. Number 4, Dolph Ziggler. And I went in kind of left field with number 5. I put down Shinsuke Nakamura. Dave, who do you like on your top 5 for Superkicks?
I got here, starting off with number 5, Tracy Smothers threw an underrated Superkick back when he was with the Young Pistols / Southern Guns, or Southern Boys, excuse me. Very underrated. Do the work. Check that out, people, if you haven't seen it. Number 4, I had Alberto Del Rio. I thought that he had a really good Superkick as well. I believe he beat John Cena for the U.S. title with one of his super kicks, if you actually look at that. He was a surprise match that night, too. Number 3, I had Dolph Ziggler. Also had one of the best. Number 2, Chris Adams. He's the original, one of the best. And number 1 for me, nobody ever got to move over more than HBK, Shawn Michaels.
Number 1, Shawn Michaels. Got to put Shawn Michaels on the list. Like both of you guys, the first super kick I ever saw was Chris Adams. Still one of my all-time favorites. Dolph Ziggler does a tremendous super kick. Extremely athletic. The Great Kabuki.
Ooh.
The good thing about the Great Kabuki is he would spit that green mist in your face first and then kick you in the face.
Good combo.
And then I can't believe you guys didn't mention this guy. I can actually feel the temperature in the room starting to change just thinking of him. My friends, it's Glacier.
Glacier.
What a great kick. I mean, some people in that time period would have went with Ernest Miller, but
I was going to say, yeah.
To me, it's Glacier, the real martial artist.
Now, Dave, I missed your top 1. Who was that?
My top 1 was HBK.
All right, now that we got all our top 5 lists, let's look at these. Shawn Michaels was on everybody's list, so he will make it to the top 3.
So was Adams.
Same with Chris Adams.
I think Ziggler might have made everybody's list too.
I think so.
Ziggler did, so this might be the easiest top 3 we've ever had.
It's easiest going to the top 3, but it might not be the easiest once you get to the top 3.
True. Now, before we move on, I just want to kind of make mention of the outlier people that we have on here. Alberto Del Rio wasn't one that would come to mind at first. Tracy Smothers either. I mean, Great Kabuki took me by surprise. But I think we all had that one person on the list that kind of surprised everybody else.
I have one that I actually crossed off my list, and he's the person I replaced with Glacier, who I regret a little bit crossing off because I don't think people remember him for doing the super kick. Chris Adams' partner when he was in Texas was Gino Hernandez. Gino Hernandez, believe it or not, also had a great super kick because the two of them would actually do long before the Bucks did the super kick party. Gino Hernandez and Chris Adams actually would do a dual super kick at the same time.
Now, I had Muta on my list. I kind of took him off to put Shinsuke on because I thought Muta had a super kick, but it wasn't maybe necessarily he was something he was known for.
So here's the difference between Mutas and the other guys. All the other guys we talked about when they did their super kick, we're talking about sweet chin music. We're talking about hitting the person on the jaw. Muta's super kick, and quite frankly Glacier's also, was almost more of a side kick where they're hitting you more in the chest.
Right, especially Muta's.
Exactly. He wasn't really aiming for the chin.
Glacier had kind of a hook to it.
Exactly.
Muta would straight up spin sometimes.
Yeah, he would just spin and hit you with that straight side kick right in the chest.
Another guy I had, actually I didn't put on there, but was Marty Jannetty. I mean, everybody thinks HBK, but Marty would have just as good a super kick sometimes.
Kind of like with the Gino Hernandez thing that we talked about. You team with someone that has a good super kick.
Right.
Even if yours isn't the best, it's going to be up there.
You're right there.
I think at some point on this podcast, we have to talk about Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, and I think we have to talk about, in fact, who was actually better.
I think...
No. We know who had the better career.
Right.
But who was actually a better wrestler?
I think it was Shawn. Well, it's the time for another podcast.
Yeah, that's a time for another podcast. That's something to think about.
Yeah.
And you know what? Guys, for next week, we're going to start something here. Next week, I challenge these two motherfuckers. I want to see who's better, Shawn Michaels or Marty Jannetty. I'm going to argue for Marty Jannetty, and we're going to get this on.
We got this final 3 here, Joe. I just want to start off by saying I'm going to get rid of Dolph. No offense to him. Just to me, Chris Adams and HBK are going to be my final 2.
I think anytime you look at a top 3 list, there's always one guy that's almost an obvious that has to go. These guys are all heavy hitters with the super kick, But if you got Shawn Michaels and Chris Adams, sadly Dolph Ziggler will be the guy that has to get off the list first. What
Dolph
do you think?
Ziggler's the only one that's not a finisher.
True.
Right.
I don't even know how this one's going to happen, but Shawn
like-
Michaels and Chris Adams, it's the originator or the guy that made it a household name.
Right. That's the thing. What are we
Arguably.
talking
Well,
about?
to me, in this one, I think you have to go to an expert of the subject.
Mhm.
And who's more of an expert when it comes to karate than Eric Bischoff?
Oh, Jesus.
And Eric Bischoff, I have it on good authority, said that Shawn Michaels has a super kick that wouldn't even get him a green belt in a kid's karate class.
Yeah, he might have been a little biased when he made those comments.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong.
But
Anyway,
that is also an informed person on throwing a kick
It's
because it's part of karate
Wha-
form.
I'm going to argue that a bit. That's an informed person with an tainted point of view.
Now, wait
for
a minute.
second.
His original tainted point of view, you are correct, is?
Yes.
But in 83 Weeks, if you listen to the podcast with Eric Bischoff,
I do.
has actually stood by his statement that Shawn Michaels' super kick was overrated.
Okay. How do you feel about Chris Adams' super kick, though?
Now, he's never really talked about
All
Chris
right.
Adams,
No,
but clearly he was never offended enough by it. to
And also,
actually
you know
do
what,
it.
though? And honestly, I don't really care what Eric Bischoff says anymore.
Oh,
I don't really
wow.
believe Eric Bischoff. All right? I'm just going to come out and say it.
Wow.
That's
Somebody's still bitter about
Woo!
that.
You know what? It's nothing against Eric Bischoff. Well, maybe a little bit. I just think sometimes he's not always trustworthy.
Hey, now that he's got that new T-shirt, 83 Days, he's all set.
Yeah, you can find him in catering. Good for him.
All right, so
All right, so let's debate it. Who do you think?
Man, it's a tough one, but at the end of the day, I'm going with HBK because he got the move over more than anything. No argument there on that part. You can debate something else, but who got it over more? Who got when you go to casual fans or any fans are gonna be like, oh, Shawn Michaels, yeah, the super kick. I remember, oh, sweet chin music. Yeah, I know that.
Oh, you think
not
he's-
everybody knows who fucking Chris
You
Adams
think he's
is.
more over than the guy who died in 2001?
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
I do like Chris Adams.
I mean, I would have to argue for Chris Adams because even though Shawn Michaels made it a big name, it wouldn't have been something to be made a big name had Chris Adams not rolled it out. And we've talked in a couple of our other 5-3-1s about the influence that you have over the business, or if you're inspiring people, that almost gives you a little more of a foothold in the legend. So I would have to give it to Chris Adams.
Plus, here's the big thing. We forget how over Chris Adams was in the 1980s. I know Dave's shaking his head.
I didn't forget how over he was.
But that feud that he had between him and David Von Erich, between him and Gino Hernandez when they broke up, when he got blinded, those feuds that he had, and that super kick, when he hit that in Texas, people knew the match was over.
I see what Joe's saying about how he was the originator. I'm not saying I agree with that should be the difference maker, but I'm not agreeing with what you're saying about Chris getting it over because he did, but it's still not the level of what HBK did. That's cut and dry.
But in fairness,
Just because some fans in Texas saw it doesn't mean it's as over as the guy who used it to beat Ric Flair at WrestleMania. The fuck
Okay.
out of here.
Technically, you put down Ric Flair with it if you
You
want.
got that right, put him down.
First of all, the matches that he had, the event was called Star Wars.
Great. They ripped off a movie and didn't get it over.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Now, and also,
You have another reason I'm willing to listen.
No, I agree with Joe. The originator. You're comparing apples to oranges and getting over because Shawn Michaels had a machine behind him in the WWE,
Sure.
which was a much larger machine than what you would have had in Texas wrestling.
Fair enough.
So you have to compare levels of overness when it comes to what they're actually in and the time period.
Fair. I will say this, though. You can take Chris Adams, you can take HBK, you can put him on the same platform, you can put the same fucking machine behind him, and one of those guys is going to get more over. And it's not Chris Adams.
Okay.
Take your stupid super kick, take your school that you tried to rip Steve Austin's money off from.
Rip his money off. He made Steve Austin.
And you tried.
All right, so
We're going to go Chris Adams, though, because
That's
two
fine.
of us agree.
I was gonna say, since we can't really come to a consensus, let's put it out to the audience.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Guys,
Christ, what do
tweet
they
us,
know?
Email us, tell us, Shawn Michaels or Chris Adams. You know how to find us on Twitter at fansworking. That's the Working Fans Wrestling Pod at gmail.com. We want to hear from you guys.
So you want to
Who
put it?
had the better super
You want to
kick?
put it in the hands of the Hammonegers? To
Definitely.
quote, all right. Only this one time, though.
All right, humanoids.
And that's only because I know how over Chris Adams is. So, guys, I look forward to hearing all your votes for Chris Adams.
Yeah, look him up. I'm sure you'll have to.
All right, guys. Thank you for coming again for another week of the 531.
Guys, thank you for listening to the 531 here on YouTube this week. If you like what you hear, you can always find us on Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and on the Apple Podcast where you can subscribe and also give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate you listening. We want your feedback, 531, and if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, we also want you to let us know. And let us know what your 531 would be. Come up with a top 5 and let us know, and we'll tell you why you're wrong. And in order for us to do that, please contact us on Twitter. We're at Fans Working. Facebook page, Working Fans Wrestling Pod. Email workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. It's very important that you actually contact us on these platforms because we want this to be your interactive place to talk wrestling.